What's up, everybody? How's it going today? And welcome back to another midday motivation here at Revive Church, where it's our mission to change lives, reach the next generation, and impact the culture with the love and the grace of Jesus Christ. My name is Derek Kerber, lead pastor here, and excited to bring you another midday. Do me a favor, for all of you who are joining us on Facebook and YouTube, please hit the share button. Let somebody know that we are on here, because today I want to talk about adult allowances. Now, if you have watched any movies or have your own children, or if you're a kid yourself, there is this thing that some parents give to their children, and it's called an allowance. And it is an allotted amount of money that you give to your children in just exchange to being your kid. Or if you're a really good parent, you will have the child do chores around the house, not like making their bed and doing dishes, because that's what you just do being a part of the house, but like mowing the lawn and the extra types of things around the house that could be done. We have that with Weston. He actually just bought himself a fishing pole after a couple weeks worth of taking care of the chickens and mowing our lawn inside of the playpen that we have. And so he raised enough of his money to be able to go buy a fishing pole. So it's an amazing way to teach your children. But today I want to talk about adult allowances and talk to us about just this essence of Colossians chapter 3. I know I've been in Colossians a lot lately, but I want to talk about this because this is talking about an allowance on a different scale. It is about giving to somebody an allowance that, that just gives them something that whether they deserve it or not. This is found in Colossians chapter 3, and I'm going to start reading in verse 12 to verse 15. So 3 quick verses, so don't leave me. Stick around. We're going to get to something good here. And it says this: since God chose you to be holy people that he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. You know why it says clothe yourself? It's because you want to keep them on. You want to keep it on. You want to keep on mercy. You want to keep on kindness. You want to keep on humility, gentleness, and patience. And so when you are covered, then you can show that to others. It says this in verse 13. This is where allowance comes in. It says this: make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. And this is the crazy part, where as a parent, a child may not do anything. If you give them an allowance, you are allowing them and enabling them and giving to them something just for being in a relationship with you. And this is the same type of thing that we as adults and everybody need to do. And it's not about a compensation financially. It's a compensation emotionally. And that's why it's saying make allowance for each other's faults. Make allowance for what they've done to you. Make sure there's a space. There's one not episode, but there's one instance in the Bible that I can look at specifically, and there is I can't remember the guy's name, but there is a guy in the Bible who hurt somebody in the church, and whether they stabbed him in the back or something happened, and you probably don't know anything about that when someone hurts you, but the Apostle Paul had taken this person who had stabbed the other person in the back and brought him under his wing and used him and taught him and mentored him. And through salvation and through mentorship and discipleship, he took this person that hurt somebody in the church and was able to take that person and mold them and to sculpt them because there was an allowance there. And he sent him back to the church in which he got hurt and said, listen, this is the thing. Paul had poured into the guy who hurt the person, but also Paul poured into the guy who got hurt. So this is the mediation that the Apostle Paul is writing to the church of Colossae here. He was saying make allowance. He was saying that because he walked it out. So now what happened is he loved the person who got hurt and he loved the person who did the hurting. And so now being the mediator, the Apostle Paul says, I'm sending you this guy to the church that got hurt. I'm sending you this guy back to you. And I want you to forgive him because he's done a lot of work for me and there's been a lot of change. And that might be some of you. That might be some of you where you've got someone reaching out to you saying, I know you got hurt by this person, but they're changed now. And because of the relationship you have with the person who's telling you that they're changed, the Apostle Paul was saying this to this church: you owe me your very life, so trust me. Make allowance for what this guy has done to you, and I promise you, he'll make it up to you. You see, this is the part of forgiveness, where when we walk in forgiveness, when we walk in humility, when we walk in making allowance for each other's faults, it will bring restoration on another level that God wants us to have, because you know this, like a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Like America, a church, a family, a business, if it's divided against itself, it cannot stand. It might take, if it's a bigger organization, it might take longer for it to fall apart. But if there's division and dividing amongst itself, it cannot stand. We've seen this in churches even in this day. We can name them off the top of our heads. Some that out west even had 30 and 40 campuses. And then because of division, because someone wasn't willing to be humble, because someone wasn't willing to forgive and to walk in the presence of God, those 30 and 40 campus churches dwindled down into just a few handfuls of them. Not that many, much smaller, not united, and they're all separate churches now. And so this is the thing that the Apostle Paul is saying. We must make allowance for our faults, each other's faults, and forgive anyone who offends us. Remember, the Lord forgave you. So he's not asking you to do something that God hasn't already equipped you to do. He's asking you to do something that he gave to you and he equipped you to do for somebody else. Verse 14 says this: above all, clothe yourself with love. That means put it on. Make sure everyone can see it. All he's trying to say is make sure everyone can see it. Make sure they know that you love them. Put on clothing of love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. Binds us all together. They might not have done what you wanted them to do. They might be a wreck on the outside and pulling you down with them. They might have hurt you. They might, they come to you with counsel and they don't do what you tell them to do. Put on love. Put on love. Put on love. That love binds us together in perfect harmony. In this week's group, we were talking about that within the Stronger Together marriage intimacy group, how love and definition should be spelt out Give. Give. That's it. Love is just giving, giving, giving. Verse 15, and let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. I just love that. I just love that. It says this: let the peace that comes from Christ rule your heart. It's not a peace that you have to stir up. It's not a peace that you have to pray into. It's not a peace that everything on the outside has to be peaceful in order for it's a peace that comes from somewhere. So in order for me to get it, I need to go to the source, and that is to Christ. And in order for me to live this life of peace, I need to live a life of focusing on Christ. And from him comes the peace, and that's the peace that will rule my heart. So I'm able now to do what verse 14 and 13 say, putting on love, gentleness, humility, gentleness, patience, kindness, mercy, and forgiving those. So in order for you to forgive and to love and to forgive and to put on love and clothe yourself in gentleness and meekness, you need to and you have to let the peace of Christ rule your heart. That means it's not just what you say at the board meeting, and it's not what you say at your church. It's what you dwell on during the week. It's what you dwell on right now, what you dwelt on this morning. Are you going to let you not having enough money to make the bill dwell in your heart? Or are you going to allow the peace of Christ to dwell in your heart? The peace of Christ, what I'm meaning is that he said that he will supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. His word says that he will clothe the lilies of the field and he takes care of every sparrow. He said, don't worry about what they worry about, because you are far more valuable than the lilies and the sparrow. So I want to tell you that today. If you have allowed your mind to go to places that are causing more anxiety and depression, we need to let the peace that comes from Christ rule in our hearts and minds. And when you do that, you will be able to forgive, you will be able to love, and you will be able to walk in mercy, patience, and peace on a level that you never have before. And that, my friends, is the gospel truth. Again, today's message comes from Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 15. And I wanted to say this. I love you guys. Thank you so very much for sticking it out all the way through today. Hit the share button. Let somebody know that you're on here. And then also want to invite you out to Revive Church this Sunday for 9 and 11 a.m. And I promise you, we're in this series called Soul Shock. And it is like my jam right now. Absolutely my jam. And I cannot wait to preach this weekend. So please come on out. Don't let your summer vacations or trips to the Great Escape get in the way. You can always do that afterwards. But I promise you, you will not be disappointed. coming out to church this weekend and beyond. I love you guys. Thank you so very much. God bless you. And may you have a great rest of your Friday. In Jesus' mighty name.